Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. My brothers and sisters, we gather here to speak up. As a Muslim Americans, we are called on by our faith and our country to stand in these difficult times to express our deepest feelings about all the tragedies that are taking place around us. Months ago, back in November, after the Paris attacks and the attacks in San Bernardino, California, I called on my best friend, Imam Muhammad Majid, said we need to do something. We have no more patience or tolerance for all this hate and all of this violence. And he concurred, let's work together and call other Muslim leaders to speak up. And the effort started as the American Muslim March on Washington. We wanted to publicly denounce in the strongest terms the terrorism done in our name. We wanted to send a very strong and clear message to the terrorist state, the so-called Islamic State. It is a terrorist state that kills more Muslims than anybody else. We wanted to send a strong message of condemnation to them and all the terrorists that they are breeding around the world, that enough is enough. You cannot speak for us, you cannot speak for Islam. You are not Muslims, you are not following Islam. You are a bunch of radical extremists, you are terrorists, and we condemn you. Yes, enough is enough. They have depleted our patience. And the 1.7 billion Muslims around the world are standing up around the world to denounce them and to fight against them. There are many Muslim nations who are working together with the international community to bring those murderers, thugs to justice. And we pray and hope that we will see the end of this terrorism very soon. Unfortunately, since Paris and San Bernardino, there were many other mass shootings. The one that I did not anticipate was the one that visited us in Orlando. Since that shooting in Orlando, there were other shootings around the world that the media did not cover in depth. Like few days before the end of Ramadan, before Eid, in Baghdad, over 250 people were killed and hundreds injured as mothers, as children shopped for Eid. Also, in Istanbul, Turkey, at that busy airport across continents where millions of people cross every day, the terrorists hit innocent civilians, travelers. Even in Medina, the city of the Prophet, the terrorists attacked. They did not have any respect for any holy place or any people. More recently, this past week in Nice, France, and yesterday in Munich, Germany, and today we woke up to another mass tragedy in Afghanistan where people were coming out to rally and were killed, over 100 murdered. As we mourn for the lives lost, for this senseless killing, we are reminded of the message from the Quran and also from the Old Testament, where God said, whoever murders one person, one life, it is as if he murdered the whole of humankind. And that's what the terrorists are doing. But also God said in the Quran and the Old Testament, then whoever saves one life, it is as if he saved the lives of all human beings. And that's what we are here for. We have to stand together to save lives. We cannot stay idle watching as more and more innocent people are murdered. We stand together not just to give speeches and talk about it, but to unite together to work hard and to press on our elected officials to do their work to protect the people. We have chosen to widen this march as a march for America, because America today is at a crossroads. It needs all of its citizens to come together to stop the senseless violence that has mushroomed everywhere. We as Americans have to join together in this march against terrorism, hate, and violence. I want us to take right now a moment to remember all the lost innocent lives, a moment of silence for the many victims here in America and across the world lost to violence and to terrorism. Brothers and sisters, we gather here today as Americans of diverse faith backgrounds, embarking on a journey that began decades ago. This historic location that we chose to be holds a much rich history and important legacy, as our voices are igniting a message of hope and peace for our future. We are commanded by a purpose greater than ourselves. We gather here to inspire, courageously seek a better future for our nation, a future based on truth, justice, and peace. We gather to pull up the roots of our ancestors and honor the history of our country with the framework on which it was founded. This is America. This is America, the free and the proud. God in the Quran says, "This is your nation, one nation, and I'm your Lord, so obey me." And how parallel that is to our Pledge of Allegiance. America is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For all those voices that say Islam has no place in America, I say Islam has the best place in America. We are one nation under God. And we have to live up those tenets of our nation, liberty and justice. Many generations of Americans paid with their blood to pass on to us and to our children our liberties, our freedoms, and the justice system that we inherit. America is one nation under God, indivisible for all, not just for some, not for certain people of a certain religion. It doesn't matter if you were born here or you flew here or you came on a boat here. If you are white, black, Latino, if you are straight or gay, if you are man or woman. This is your country. This is our country. We gather here today for liberty. We gather today for liberty for all Americans, to end the shackles of intolerance that enables Americans to fight against other Americans because of their religion, their race, their national origin, their color, their sexual orientation, or now for their occupation. We gather today for liberty to remember the hallowed and sacred journeys of generations before us, Americans who marched for our liberty and gathered on these sacred grounds dedicated to peace and to maintain our right to liberty to believe in whatever deity we choose to or philosophy we follow. God calls on us in the Quran as Muslims to stand up for justice. He says, "O who you believe, stand up for God's sakes as witnesses for justice, and do not let other people's hate towards you cause you to be unjust. Be just, it is closer to piety." Justice is not just a slogan, is a way of life, how you treat others with fairness, how you love for others what you love for yourself. We gather today for justice and to voice our support for our law enforcement agencies, for officers in Dallas and Baton Rouge, and everywhere across this great nation, who dedicated their lives to serve and protect all of us, who work around the clock to ensure our safety and security, to ensure the safety and security of all Americans, regardless of their race or color or beliefs. We gather today for justice to express our faith in our justice system, in our courts and judges who work hard to uphold the Constitution and to render justice to all Americans, regardless of their faith, race, color, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation. We gather today to march for America, to ensure that America's future is free of terrorism, free of hate, and free of violence. We gather today to call for an end to terrorism. I'm speaking to you today because I have seen it firsthand in Orlando. The heinous massacre that killed 49 people and 53 others were injured wasn't the first one, nor was the last one. Before that, there were other mass shootings where 20 children, elementary school children, and 6 of their teachers were killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, where 14 state employees were murdered at a health center in San Bernardino, California, where 12 moviegoers in a movie theater were killed in Aurora, Colorado, where 9 faithful Christians were murdered at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. While each one of these murders, these massacres, should be too much to bear, too much to bear, no action over the past several years have been taken by our elected officials in Congress behind me. Gun violence is still claiming over 33,000 lives a year in this country. That's too many people. If we can work to save one life, that's worth the effort that we do here. I know that doctors work hard to save lives, and I want to honor the thousands of Muslim doctors across this nation My brother from Apna spoke earlier. Apna by itself, Pakistani physicians have over 15,000 Muslim doctors. There are doctors from all over the world who serve in hospitals across this nation. And I'm honored to be married to one. There are people who save lives every day. And if we can get our Congress to act to save more lives, to pass common sense legislation in order for this nation to live in safety and security. Over the past several years, we watched with horror as tragedy after tragedy unfold. The mass shootings continue, and the only thing that's truly unites these mass shootings is that military-style assault rifles were used to kill so many people. They were used by mentally ill individuals, American raised and born, or born and raised, who were white, who were of color, they were Christians, they were Muslims. It didn't matter. The diversity of these shootings have one thing in common, that military-style assault weapons, which are designed for our military, are being used on our streets to kill Americans. That must stop. You know, police officers cannot prevent these mass shootings as we can imagine, because it takes just 2-3 minutes to kill so many people, even before they reach there. We can do better as a nation. We can balance the right of responsible gun owners, and we can honor the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, which is a rich tradition in this nation since its founding. We can honor that and respect that while enacting common sense laws that prevent criminals and terrorists and mentally ill individuals from obtaining or having access to guns. Our Congress should enact universal background check. Every person who is going to obtain a gun should be known and should be examined before they get it if they have a mental illness or hateful ideology. I call on reinstating the ban on assault rifles that was there between 1994 and 2004. Because these mass shootings against LGBT club, elementary school, a movie theater, a church, they are attacks on all Americans. They are attacks on our right for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness enshrined in our Constitution. So our elected officials have to stand up for our Constitution and to give us these rights. When terrorists choose to declare war on innocent people, should we cower in fear in the face of their aggressions? Or should we just give them indifference? That's what we are seeing now. We have to stand united here in front of this great Capitol building to call on Congress to act on our behalf as our representatives and legislate the laws necessary to protect the American people. We want to remind them that we will be watching. Inaction, indifference, and refusal to take their responsibility seriously will be remembered in this November election. The greatest testament to the power of our liberty lies in our right to vote. As Americans, we elect our leaders. That's why we shall encourage everyone to register to vote and to go out and vote. Vote your conscience. Vote for leaders who will choose the American people over the lobbyists, who will choose to defend the rights of innocent civilians to live in peace and security. We must have informed options as we choose our leaders. We have to think deeply, not based on party, not based on ideology, but based on principles. Our vote in November does not only elect our president, our votes elect our Congress, our representatives. It elects our state and local government officials. This is still the United States of America. This is still a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Each of our votes should be a vote against terrorism, against hate, and against violence. Islam condemns terrorism. American Muslim scholars and imams have spoken very strongly against acts of terrorism and have issued a very clear and detailed and evidence-based religious edict condemning terrorism, hate, and violence. These statements will be read in a moment after me. We have to remember that in the Quran, God calls on all of us, O people, we created you from a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes to know one another. So let's heed that message. My brothers and sisters, we must come to know one another. We must have conversations to dispel the myth and the fears about each other, to end the stereotypes, to end the intolerance and mistrust. We should break bread and invite each other to our homes, bring our neighbors to our homes, and have one-on-one conversations. We should choose peaceful refrains, and we should elect to stand up for each other's rights. To stop the hate and violence, we have to defend one another from the hate and fear-mongers. Freedom is a responsibility. The freedom of speech that we enjoy today is our responsibility to use it in the right direction. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom to promote hate and bigotry. Today, let us exercise our freedom by standing united against terrorism, hate, and violence. Let us express our freedom by standing together with people of good conscience everywhere to rise up and dedicate our lives to peace, so that our gatherings in the future will be celebrations, not gatherings for mourning. I ask you to join me in promoting truth, justice, and peace, and working as hard as we can together as Americans, united against terrorism, hate, and violence. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.